let me just say, I just want to make a couple points and then I'll go on and maybe I'll try to stop. The points I want to make, I think, are very, very simple. A main thing is that I look at video a lot, a very long time, and I look at very short sequences, basically, and I'm trying to figure out what's happening in those sequences. And as I look, I start with the video, and as I look, I then try to find ways of showing in different ways, sometimes on a paper, but also in talk, the kind of things I'm seeing. And my thinking is very informed by this incremental going back and forth between the video, trying to figure out what's going on, and then on the basis of what I see, that changes in a way how I'm seeing the video. That what I do then is I work up my stuff first as a talk, and I think there's a lot of things you can do in a talk that you can't do in a paper. And only later, and it's hard for me, do I actually put it into a paper. Now, the only other points real quick are that on the basis of looking for a long time, and I look at different things for a long time, I begin to see relationships between materials that were apparently quite dissimilar, like between the work of scientists and girls playing hopscotch and things like this. And then and that is my way of, say, going toward generalizations rather than through very large collections, because it's very labor intensive what I do. So I end up with small examples, but I'm trying to show the generality in terms of those practices across some of these examples. And I guess the last things, very quick, just to preface everything I'd say, I think that the method I'm working with was the method I learned from Gail Jefferson back about 1971 when we had seminars with Candy and I and Malka Yeager-Dor in our apartment in Philadelphia for a couple years, where it was looking at tape. We didn't have transcripts then yet or something, looking at tape and go, ooh, ooh, look at that, look at that. And then we'd find something and then we try to work it up. And in this, I say, differ from the other kind of labs at UCLA, both the one in sociology and the one in anthropology, because my focus is on people looking at tape together rather than on a presentation, and certainly not from starting with a written transcript. Though I see the value. We were talking yesterday about getting a transcript to align things. So basically, this is the transcript that was eventually published in the article. And I'm just real quick, I'll notice a couple things. You know, you can notice that what I'm trying to do is well, why don't I get the video first? Okay. So this is the sequence. It's a sequence. Candy, as probably most of you know, she's really interested in girls' groups and girls' games. So she got this opportunity to record, and we always need at least two people, basically two people. Candy at this point is holding this microphone up over the girls, and I'm behind the camera. And I saw this sequence as it was happening, and I didn't know what was going on, but I thought it was a really good sequence. So when I came home, I thought I wanted to work on. And that's typical of me, that I see something, I sometimes call them juicy sequences. And I think, but I don't know what's going on in it, and it takes me a long time, but I have an intuitive sense of it. So this is the sequence.
Hasta allí. Oye, chiriona, ¿por qué este es el 4? Y tú vas en el 4, no vas en el quinto. Este es el quinto y ese es el 4.
So okay, so there's an awful lot of stuff going on in these 10 seconds. I was supposed to write a paper on this. I thought it'd be simple, it's 10 seconds. I couldn't get the paper done in time. It took me years. And and there's a lot, and I'll just point, obviously some of the things. There's very rich language, and very rich in terms of the prosody. There's the fact that... Okay. There's a whole bunch of stuff here, and I'll just real quick raise a couple issues. Transcription. How do you describe the girls' bodies here? And there's things like Alon and stuff that do a verbal description. I never like a verbal gloss because I want to get for myself and the reader all that's happening. And there's a lot that's happening in Blue's body here. She's doing the gesture. She's also leaning forward. How do you describe the gesture? It's in front of her face, but equally it's in front of Yellow's face. And there's a whole bunch of stuff on that the way that Yellow is standing, she's not accepting she's got an illegal move, so she's standing up on one foot as though she's still going to run through the game. Then there is, and then this is one of the things, I don't know if I saw this initially, but Yellow looks down. We talked about organizations of attention. So when yellow looks down, she's no longer attending to blue. And what blue does is do a deictic stomp right where she's continuing. Okay, so she follows, and there's a lot of things. I mean, one of the things that comes out of the article, it took me a while to find it, is that it's the access to a whole bunch of different semiotic resources. So she's portraying the grid and everything in different ways before the girl looks down, and then with all these deictics as she looks down. A second thing that I still am considering is that everybody's always looking at speech acts and the things that make up a speech act. What's interesting to me is that it's exactly the same action being done, the accusation against Yellow, but it's being done in these radically different ways instead of coming up with what the thing is at the end. One last thing that...
Stomp act.
Huh? What?
It's a stomp act.
Yeah, it's a stomp act, right. Right, it's footing. Okay.
But on the floor. It's on the floor.
Yes. Oh. Okay. But one last thing that I spent a long time and I still haven't fully worked out is, to me, this brought into the attention of the grid and how the grid was a very different kind of semiotic resource than the talk or the bodies. And a lot of what I was trying to work out was the interplay of different kinds of semiotic resources in different media and how they all mutually elaborated each other into the organization of the actions that were here. And I'm still trying to think this through. I mean, I'm still thinking, I'm not entirely happy with the notion of multimodality. Why do you do it? And I guess I'm beginning to think more biologically in terms of symbiosis and how you've got these different systems which all have prior historical developments that are all coming together at this. Okay, then just to continue the things I had presented, one of the things, okay, real quick, one of the things is frequently you get frame grabs, and I don't think that frame grabs work. And when you put them in black and white, they look terrible. And when you copy them into a paper, they look even worse. So I'm doing things like, at least it's easier for me to work. I remove the backgrounds and things like that. And then you can see the bodies being silhouetted. I like to draw, but I'm not that good an artist, so I don't do it as much. Then I work it up into these presentations just real quick. And in the presentations, I'm trying to bring together all this stuff. And I can do a lot because I can bring it. So I can now tie abstracted visions of the gestures right where they're occurring in the transcript, and then I can put on, at least for a presentation, some of the things I'm looking at, and then I can get into some of this stuff like the, you know, the different kinds of things, and then I can begin to notice ties between this and other kinds of stuff. So very quick here. I begin to note that both the archaeologist, who was also working on, and the girls in the hopscotch are both working with grids, and there's a lot of stuff. And this was the beginnings of a lot of later work, like environmentally coupled gestures and all that, from trying to just work through basically what was happening in this sequence, and then finally to work with it, I go into InDesign. I won't bring that up now, because in InDesign I can do the text exactly what I want. I can bring all the images on in a different layer, and I think of it like a kid playing with finger paints. I can move the different things until I get, and as I'm writing, I'm very frequently beginning to write, seeing that the image I have, I always write with the image in front of me. The image doesn't fully reflect what I want to write, so I'll go back and change the images, and that can delay the writing on that. So at any event, actually that's then a quick run through of how I work. Okay. Okay.
A few questions and comments.
Yeah.
What makes her a juicy,
Not her, the sequence.
a juicy, what's the second word?
Yeah.
Segment, a juicy segment.
That's the sequence, is I have a sense without knowing yet that there's something interesting here and it makes me want to work. But again, it's very much like the geologist. I'm withholding judgment, not withholding, I don't know. But I'm not making a judgment initially. I'm not going in with a prior scheme of here's gaze, here's turn taking. I'm going and trying to be open to what's happening in the sequence.
Oh, God.
Oh, I put it in my mind. Okay.
So you don't think you have preset
Of course I
criteria?
have preset, but I try to put them on hold, and I try to be open what's happening, but I am bringing to bear what I did have. I don't say that I don't, but I'm trying to be open to learning something new I mean, when I first found that restarts get gays, I could look through every sequence and keep finding restarts get gays. And I intentionally put that off and wasn't trying to look at the new materials I was looking at in terms of that. And I look at, it's the only thing I will say, I love, and I've gotten a lot out of working over materials with other people, including many people in this room. But I have my lab at UCLA, and we've had loads of people from all over the world come in and bring in stuff. And I try to sit there open to what they're bringing. And I've learned an incredible amount from all these different kinds of materials. And it's trying to maintain that state of openness and seeing stuff new as you're working.
Another comment or question?
Lots.
Yeah, no, too many.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.